Hi everyone, so I know this video might seem a little bit random, and by the title you're probably wondering, Kaylee, why are you making this video? Why do you feel the need to explain yourself? And the truth is that I feel like if you've been following along with me for a while in my channel, you don't fully know who I am. And that's almost weird to say because on this channel I literally film my life so much that you do know a lot of who I am, but there is that missing piece that a lot of you might not know. And obviously by the title it is that I'm an introvert, and this isn't something I ever thought I would make. That's honestly why a lot of you probably don't know this, because I've never really talked about it. I never really thought to. It was just like who I am. I never really thought to be like, hey guys, like this is me, but this past year it had been brought to my attention that I seem like a different person online, on YouTube for example, than I do in real life. That is something I never had thought about before, because again, I film my life. I feel like on this channel I share every detail, and that's not something I need to do, but I love documenting my life and I love doing YouTube and filming. I've been recording myself ever since I was a little girl. I don't know why I've been so obsessed with cameras and videos, but I just have been ever since I was little. And then once I found out YouTube was a thing, like I just really wanted to go at it, and I wasn't vlogging at first. I was just posting random videos on my other channel, which is now a whole different channel. It's a dog channel now, but then I made this one because I realized I wanted to vlog, and again, I've just been sharing my life. But being told that I look like that I seem like a different person on YouTube than I do in real life really hit me, because I never thought about it like that, and I never want to be perceived differently in real life than I do on YouTube, because frankly, I'm the same person. I just might not look like it, and a lot of it is because I'm an introvert. That's really the main thing, is in real life people know just how quiet I am, but on YouTube, when I'm talking to you guys, it doesn't look like I'm an introvert because I'm talking to you. You can't be quiet on YouTube if you're filming, if you're vlogging. There's no way to be quiet. You have to talk, but it never felt like this scary thing to me because I've just done it ever since I was a little girl. Maybe not YouTube in general. I mean, I have done YouTube for a while, but again, I've just talked to cameras ever since I was a little girl, that it doesn't feel like I need to put on this show, which is why I'm so raw with you guys. You guys, I literally didn't even make my bed. There's a bag of chips. I don't ever focus on the little details like that anymore. I'm not one of those YouTubers that I get so nitpicky. Like, I just don't care, and that's probably why a lot of people don't watch my channel, because I'm not really like professional. Like, I have such long vlogs, I just put everything in there because I just don't care. I care, but I don't care to be so professional. Or some people, there are YouTubers out there who are fake, and they'll just put on a show for the camera, but like, that's not me. And it was kind of coming across that way, as if I was fake on here, because in real life I'm not this, I guess you could say, outgoing. That's because in real life I just feel like I hold myself back more, whereas on a camera I don't feel like I need to. And I'm just gonna get into everything. So growing up, I was always the youngest. I still am. I mean, that doesn't really change unless you get obviously new siblings, but always the youngest. I was always the annoying one, and most people think that if you're the youngest, like everyone loves you and everyone wants to be around you, but that was not the case for me. People did not like to be around me. I was annoying, and when I say people, that could go for anyone. That could go family, friends, literally anyone. I was just perceived as annoying. Anyone is told in life that they're annoying at some point, but for me, that was like how I was perceived as a kid. At least that's the way I took it. I got pushed away a lot by my family and friends because of this, because they didn't want to be around me. I would get put in my room, and this isn't even if I got in trouble or anything, I understand that, but I was just not someone that people wanted to be around because of who I was. I was very outgoing, and again, that probably was perceived as annoying. I was very adamant about wanting to be around people and to hang out and play, do this. Like, I just loved it to be around people. I mean, I was such a social butterfly when I was younger that I hung out with friends every weekend, or at least wanted to. I know there were definitely weekends where I wasn't allowed, or I got told no. If a friend couldn't come to my house, I asked if I could go to theirs. Like, I would do anything to go hang out with someone, to have a friend over. I felt like it was a bad thing if I wasn't hanging out with someone. And obviously being in school, like, you were at school all week, you were with people all day, and then you get home, I'd want to hang out with friends after school. I only had really the weekend to have free time to have sleepovers. I loved sleepovers when I was little. I just loved being with people and being with my friends and having fun and just doing things. And it made me realize how much I did not like to be alone. Anytime I was alone, if there was a weekend I wasn't hanging out with a friend, if I wasn't allowed to, I was so miserable. I would yell at my parents. I'd be so mad at them. I mean, any kid doesn't really like to be told no, but for me it was because I couldn't hang out with people. And it's so backwards to me now, but like back then I saw being alone as a negative thing.
What kind of one more friend because she picked figures too, and she just can't get off the phone together. Right now, I'm not going to worry about that right now, okay?
I mean, there was literally one day in either 4th or 5th grade, I can't remember which one, I walked to my friend's house. She didn't live too far, she still lived on a different road, but I walked to her house after school. I didn't ask my parents. I just went and I walked over to hang out with her. And yes, I ended up getting in trouble because obviously my parents realized I wasn't home and all that stuff, but that's how badly I wanted to be with friends. I did not like to be told no, so I just took action for myself. I do not recommend doing that. But I didn't want to be told no, so I thought, okay, let's just go there, Kind of back to the whole annoying thing, I literally lost friends because I wanted to hang out. And that sounds so silly, but I'm not kidding. I'm not being dramatic when I say that I have lost friends over getting mad at them because their parents said I couldn't go to their house, or because they were at someone else's house, or they already had plans. I would literally blow up at them. I just didn't like the feeling of someone not wanting to hang out with me. I took it personally. Like, if they were already going to a friend's house, I was like, well, why don't you want to go to mine? Or like, why can't I go to yours? Or why are your parents saying no? Do they not like me? Like, I would get in my head over every little thing, and I would get mad at them. And I'm not kidding, I can name a number of friendships that I lost solely because I got mad that I couldn't hang out with them. And it's so dumb, I understand. As an adult, that's something you could fix, but as a kid, when you're younger, you don't really know how to communicate in arguments, so that's like, okay, we're not friends. Like, you don't want to deal with me. So if I can't get my point across, like, hey, you guys, I was so social as a kid, like, that is what I mean by that, right? And the older I got, the more I realized that if a friend couldn't hang out with me, I couldn't get upset. I needed to understand that it's okay to have a weekend where you're not hanging out with anyone. It doesn't mean that nobody likes you. It doesn't mean any of that. It's just, you need to understand that you're not going to be able to hang out every single weekend as much as I wanted to. And so the older, like I said, the older I got, the more I just kind of had to understand and appreciate that and not blow up when someone said no. Obviously, the older you get too, the more you experience losing friends in other scenarios, other situations. And going into like middle school, I really started to have a hard time making friends, socializing. I was never fully diagnosed, but I do 100% believe that I developed social anxiety in 8th grade. I really had a hard time going to school. I missed a lot of school that year. Every time I woke up, I was nauseous, and just being in school like gave me so much anxiety. Being around people, which was not me at all before, being in class, just having to present, like doing anything around people really made me nervous. But I was in cheerleading at the time. I started cheer in 6th grade, and that did help a little bit, but I still only had like a few friends on the team. I remember there was actually one time in 8th grade, so at lunch I sat with 2 other friends. I had more friends, but the way lunch was split up, you only had a certain friends in your group, just because it was split up by alphabet. So I sat with these 2 friends at lunch every day, and there was one day that they both happened to be out sick, and I realized I had to sit by myself. And again, I saw being alone as such a negative thing, even though I was still having a hard time being around people. Like, if you were close with me, if I was close with them, then it was fine. And I was really nervous. I was like, I don't want to sit alone, that looks weird, but I also don't want to go like sit with somebody else because that stresses me out. So I just ended up sitting alone, and I just kind of sat there and was like, wow, like, yes, I know my friends are out sick and they didn't mean to do this, but I just kind of feel so alone, and like nobody likes me. And I know, again, I can go sit with somebody else, but why isn't anyone getting up and sitting with me? I was like, I feel like if you see someone alone, I don't know. I just really got in my head a lot with my social anxiety. I just started to overthink everything. Like, nobody likes me, even my friends don't like me. I really started to overanalyze everything and quite literally get in my own head. Then I went to high school, obviously. That's a whole nother wave of emotions. Being a freshman, being in a new building with social anxiety, it's like you're a freshman and automatically people don't like you, which is so dumb. dumb. I don't understand why that's even a thing. Why, if you're a freshman, like, you're automatically disliked. That's so stupid. Breaks my heart. And then I was on JV for cheer, so I was on a whole new, like, side of cheer. I was out of Pop Warner. I was in, like, high school cheer now, and it was a bigger deal. And yes, I had a few friends on that team, but one day I knew I wanted to go on varsity, and that was still very scary, though, because then I'd have to deal with the older upperclassmen who already didn't like me because I was a freshman, because I was on JV. There's just something, like, again, being a freshman, the upperclassmen automatically don't like you, and if you're on JV, the varsity automatically doesn't like you. And I was already in my head about people not liking me, that this did not help at all. And I remember there was actually one time at cheer camp where it was my first cheer camp, and me and a couple of my friends had to use the restroom, and because it was our first time, we were still new to the whole area, it was in a different state and everything, we were told to stick together so that we wouldn't lose each other, because there's so many cheer teams, it's really easy to get lost. And I remember they had both went at the bathroom, and I kind of had to wait, and then eventually I get to go in. By the time I came out, they were not there, and I had to find my way back to the cheer team. They were sitting there, and they didn't wait for me. And just little things like that that made me feel like people just didn't really care about me at all. And for someone to be like your friends treating you like that is not okay. Friends or not, you don't do that. It's as silly as it might sound, it's not something you do. And then that was fall season, and then the winter season of my freshman year, I actually made varsity, and I was only one. That's a lie. One of my other JV teammates had made it too, but she was already, like, popular in school, so everybody loved her. I wasn't necessarily friends with her though, but when I joined varsity, when I made varsity, I didn't really have any friends on there, and again, people just didn't like me from the get-go because I was that JV girl, that I was that freshman, nobody talks to her, all that stuff. And I almost shut down immediately. I didn't really talk to people on my team, and they didn't like that. They didn't like how quiet I was, but it was really hard to open up because I just felt like if I say anything, if I speak up, if I socialize, it gives people something to judge me for. If I say something, boom, they can like pick at me with anything I say, so I just didn't say anything at all. We'd be on water break, I wouldn't talk to anyone. I was just very in tune with just being with me, because again, growing up, I didn't like that, but I kind of had to learn to like it in a way so that I wouldn't get upset when someone couldn't hang out with me, you know? There was a time when I noticed that my team was talking about me. I'm someone who's very in touch with, like, people's behavior, and they're like, if I can tell if someone's judging you, I can tell if someone's talking about you. I don't know when that kind of started to, like, become something I realized I had, but, like, I'm just very in tune with how someone feels about me and how they behave around me, how they act, again, if they're judging me, all that stuff. And my team would be in, like, little groups on water break, and I could see them, like, whispering and then, like, kind of looking at me, and I could just tell right from the get-go they were talking about me. What they were talking about me for, don't know, but they were talking about me. There was a couple people, they'd kind of, like, pick on me for being, like, the quiet one, like, you know. Then I saw being quiet as a negative thing, being alone or independent as a negative thing, you know. After school, before cheer practice, and then, like, right after school, there was always a gap where you just kind of, like, got ready for cheer, did work or whatever, and my whole team, they'd be, like, in the lobby doing homework together, and I would go in the locker room and I would do my thing in there. I didn't want to sit with them. It just made me too anxious. I felt like I couldn't get any work done. I was around people all day at school that I just needed some time alone before going to cheer, and being around people again for 2 hours, like, I just started to appreciate alone time, because it was very rare that I had any. And it also made me feel less anxious, because again, like, even though as a younger kid I loved being around people, I wasn't so in my head like I was when I was older. So being around people when I was older, it made me more anxious. So then I realized being alone didn't make me feel anxious, so I learned to like to be alone. And it had actually gotten so bad that, I don't want to say they were bullying me, but they were being very rude around me, always talking about me. There was one girl who kept actually telling me, like, that I wasn't really friends with her, but she was like, she stood up for me a few times and would tell me that they were talking bad about you. There was one day I had to actually miss a practice for a family thing, and they were all so mad at me, and the only one who stood up for me was that one girl, and she said, yeah, they were talking, like, very bad about you. And I literally quit the next day. A girl had yelled at me because I wouldn't do a back handspring because I wanted to get a back walkover first. Like, it was just not a team I wanted to be on, so I quit. And I honestly didn't know what that meant for me for cheer. Like, and I was still freshman. I planned to do cheer till I was a senior. I was like, I don't know what this means now. I did join cheer again the next year, and I was on varsity, and I just kept to myself. I didn't really want to deal with half of them, but I had to because I was on a team with them. The only time I ever talked to them was if it was about a stunt or something cheer related. I did not just talk with them as friends. And that made cheer camp hard because you're living with them for 4 days. But I'd say social wise, freshman year was definitely, like, my hardest, because was there was actually a time I was in global class and we had a sub that day. And you know, when there's a sub, like the whole class is more social, they talk more, they are more distracted. Yeah, well, I hated global. I didn't have any friends in that class. So no matter what, I was just sitting there and doing my work. And the whole class was so loud that the sub had actually said, hey guys, can we quiet it down? Can we do our work? Like, look, Kaylee's over here doing her work. Like, they knew my name. They kind of used me as an example. Like, look, she's sitting there just quiet doing her work. Like, can we, quiet it down, please? And one of the kids in my class literally said out loud to the whole class, well, it's because she has like mutism. If you don't know what that is, it's basically, let me just read the definition right from Google so that I don't butcher this. Okay, selective mutism is a severe anxiety disorder where a person is unable to speak in certain social situations, such as with classmates at school or to relatives they do not see very often. It usually starts during childhood and if left untreated can persist into adulthood. Now, I'm not saying that I disagree with their comment as far as the truth of it. I had never labeled it like that. I always only just labeled it social anxiety, but yeah, I don't just talk to anyone at school, and I still don't just talk to my family. Like, I actually really get super anxious being around my family because I just don't talk. Like, as a kid, I was just always like belittled by everyone that I don't like to be like the adult with them now because I don't feel like one. But throughout my time in school, like, people would always pick on me for being the quiet one. I'd literally get awards for being like the quiet one in class. Like, that doesn't feel like, like, that doesn't really feel good, other than like, yeah, it might mean you got your work done, but other than that, everyone knows it's kind of a stupid award. And something I realized from having a bunch of different group of threes of like friends growing up, I was telling you those two girls from at cheer camp, they were like two of my friends, and then like the two people I sat with at lunch in middle school. Growing up, I slowly started to realize I did not do well in group of threes. Still to this day, I don't. Like, if I'm with friends, I do better one-on-one. Groups, even if you say four, like, I still don't really do good in groups unless we're really, really close. Like, there's one group of friends I had in a high school. They call themselves the Mod Squad. That's actually the one group I've ever been like fine with in my life, and I don't feel like I ever left out with them. But like group of threes, I'm not good with those. I prefer one-on-one friendship, hanging out. I don't like when there's other people. I just like it to be me and someone else if we're hanging out, because it doesn't make me feel like I'm being pushed away, which is a lot of things that I felt growing up. Like, I just always kind of felt like people wouldn't wait for me. They didn't want to be around me. Like, what I'm saying is, if there was a group of friends, right, group of three, if we were told, and I don't know why we'd ever be told this, but if we were told, guys, you can only pick one person in this group to hang out with, it would always be the other two. No matter who it was, it would always be the other two that were closer to each other. They would pick each other and I would be the one left out. Like, that's literally every group of friends I've ever been in, group of three, like that. It was always like that. I was always the odd one out. So I just really started to like have a hard time being in groups, anything in high school. I feel like when you partner up with like I hated all of it. So I just like to keep to myself. And being in high school, I was always go, go, go. Like, I had school all day, and then I had cheer, and then sometimes I had a cheer game after, and then on the weekends I had a cheer competition. It's like I was always go, 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 that I never really had alone time. So again, the little things like going in the locker room instead of sitting with my team in the lobby, that was like some of my alone time. I just really started to value it more because I had it less. But then my junior year of high school, the pandemic started, and I wasn't go, go, go. I had alone time. I was sitting here doing work. Sure, like, I had like my sister here and stuff, but I was just in my room or downstairs doing my homework all day, sometimes be on a FaceTime with someone, but for the most part, I was just alone. And I realized how much I loved it, how much I really did love. I transitioned to the pandemic so much easier than a lot of other people, because a lot of other people like to be around people all the time. Dude, if we had the pandemic when I was little, I would have gone nuts because of how social I was, and I feel so bad for the little kids who went through that so little. But I wasn't a social butterfly anymore, so I handled the pandemic so much easier. Obviously it was still hard. I'm not saying I loved the pandemic itself, but like the alone time, the quarantine, I actually really enjoyed. I loved having me time, and I wasn't anxious. I was anxious about the pandemic, but I wasn't anxious about like social, and like I didn't have to do that anymore. And not only that, but nobody was socializing, so it's not like I felt left out. Anytime I was younger and I couldn't hang out with a friend, they were with someone else, then I felt left out or anything. But with the pandemic, like, that wasn't the case. Nobody was hanging out with anybody. So I really was able to enjoy my alone time and not feel left out or think anything other than the pandemic. And so I don't know about you guys, but if you've been following me for a while, you would know really ever since the pandemic, you guys haven't really seen videos where I'm hanging out with friends, because I just don't do that anymore. And it's not that I don't want to, it's just I don't feel like I need to. I don't feel like that's what I need for somebody to want to be my friend, or you know, it makes me more anxious because people are just so judgmental nowadays, and people just really have a hard time showing kindness and respect for other people. And you know, just being told, like, I mean, I was quite literally told, like, I'm fake on here and I'm more who I am in real life, but at the end of the day I'm actually more who I am on here than I am in real life, because in real life I hold myself back more. I know that as an introvert I have this social energy where I can be social. I do have a desire in me to hang out with people, but it's just harder because a lot of people are so judgmental and not not showing kindness, that I just haven't really found my people yet. So I'm in this stage of my life where I just prefer to be to myself, because I don't have to feel like I need to be this for someone or be perfect or act a certain way for them to like me. Like, they can just like me for who I am and be fine with that. But you know, on here it's a camera. Like, I'm not saying judgment right now. I know people can leave a hate comment, but I'm not saying like body language. So it's easier to just like get my thoughts out on here and not be anxious, because in real life, when you see the body language, when you see people judging you or anything, that's where I hold myself back and I'm not as social. So I'm more myself on here than I am in person. But again, being an introvert is probably just something you never knew, because on social media it's kind of hard to show that. I mean, you're on social media, like, you're talking, you know, it doesn't mean you're fake, you're just not really showing. Like, you can't really do that on social media. But that's why I wanted to put this video out, because I want you guys to know the full me, that I am an introvert. I hope you guys enjoyed my little story time, maybe learned something about me, and I will see you in my next one.